Kundalini awakening, Kundalini activation, the rising of your Kundalini, the rising of the energy, the Shakti energy in your Sushumna, your column. What are these channels? Okay, so I could be wrong here. I don't have all the knowledge, but I have researched this quite a lot. If we go from the standpoint of the Kabbalistic tree of life, we all know the structure. There are 3 columns, 1 in the center. And we also know, if we take Kabbalah back far enough, it comes from ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt, if you look at the majority of the carvings of the hieroglyphs, all bodies are faced sideways. Now they might try to tell you this is because they didn't have the artistic skill to draw them front ways. Yet if you look at the statues from ancient Egypt and the architecture, well, clearly they did have the skill. So there was a definite reason why they put everything sideways. If you look at many of the ancient drawings from ancient China, again, they had amazing architecture, amazing statues. They had the artistic skill to draw things. Yet when we look at most sketches and representations of energy systems, so many of them, again, are drawings transversal of the body. So if we put these 2 things together, because today they tend to, if anyone overlaps the tree of life onto the body, they put it front on. So they're saying, well, there's a column here, and a column here. Okay. Now, yes, the Kabbalistic tree of life, that's a 2D drawing, and it could be 3D, and there could be 4 columns on the edges, etc., etc. However, if we change something slightly and say, okay, let's put the Kabbalistic tree of life on those 2D sketches that were drawn in ancient times, that means we have a column at the back, which would be our Sushumna, the Kundalini. We would have the middle pillar, which is the middle pillar. And then we would have a front channel. So we know there are, if we look at the microorbit, we know there is a system that runs just inside the spine, in the front of the spine, that runs up, goes through, and runs down the front of the body and connects a loop. So this would make sense. But then people might say, but wait, what about even the Pingala from yoga? They run either side of the Sushumna. Well, we also know, if we look at the staff of Hermes, there is a central column, which is the spine, and then there are the 2 snakes that cross, rising up the spine. So if we look at the energy systems, are there, in fact, 2 energy columns that transverse up the spine, sort of like a DNA type of thing? Yes, there are. So they would be the Pingala and the Ida, rising up, crisscrossing. And this is where many people say, oh, my Shakti energy is rising up the column, or my Shiva energy is going down the column, when they haven't necessarily got to those grades. And that is because it's actually energy rising up and going down the Ida and the Pingala. And it can feel like it's going down the center because obviously they're crisscrossing all the way up and all the way down. So it makes sense. This also means if we put the tree of life transversely through our body, as I said, the back one is the Kundalini. We have the middle pillar, which gets activated in Lightbody activation. And so then we have a column down the front of the body. Now again, this would make sense if you think about it, the whole way the body is structured. As long as you don't always have your stomach relaxed and you start getting a belly. But if it's tense, it would make sense, if you think about it, that there must be the 3 channels there. It's also corroborated by the micro-orbit. So there is a channel in the column, which would be the Sushumna, which is where the Kundalini rises. You then have a separate channel, which runs just in front of the column, which is a circular thing, which is the micro-orbit. But then that means there is one channel that everybody misses and has missed, which would literally run down the front of the body. And if we think about where the plexuses are placed, and so if we start with the pituitary gland, not the pineal gland, the pituitary gland at the front of our heads, then it is over the throat, which is over the thalamus and the thyroids, which is over the solar plexus, which is over the sexual organs, which are just under the navel. It makes perfect sense that there is an energy column at the front there too. Thus, to fully awaken, one would need to not only raise energy up the Sushumna, the back column, one would also need to work on the front column. And then, of course, connect it to the middle pillar. And this is, at least in my experience, when I'm working on Kundalini, there are major energy releases and the connection and all the system working out and the movements. But then those happen again when you're doing the middle pillar and the light body activation. They do feel different. But it isn't until we raise the front one as well and connect that everything stabilizes. In light body activation, first of all, we tend to raise the middle pillar. At least this is my experience of it. Once we've raised the middle pillar, and so like the Shakti's gone up the middle pillar and the Shiva's come down the middle pillar, then it leads to a connection of the Kundalini, but it still doesn't feel whole. And when we then open up the front column, that's when everything gets very, very powerful. So the raising of the Kundalini, or Kundalini awakening, is only a third of the full process. Now, you're not going to hear this anywhere else. I've been researching this for many years, and I haven't found anyone else saying this. But what they do say, if you read ancient texts, that they teach you a certain part, and then the rest will be revealed to you and isn't talked about. Also, we have to remember that most ancient texts haven't survived time. They were destroyed. Even in Tibet, a vast majority, when Tibet stopped becoming a country, not going into politics here, that lots of the texts were destroyed. Indian texts were destroyed when, just throughout time, throughout the wars, when the British Empire overtook, they destroyed stuff. Texts have been destroyed the whole time. Look at in Egypt, how many different times, you can look it up in historical channels where the libraries were destroyed, the famous one of Alexandria, but it's not the only one. The Christian Romans destroying all the texts, all the Druid texts, etc., etc. We've lost the vast majority of them information. So it could be we just lost that information, but now it's coming back to us. So when we're working on these systems, there are two major systems. One is the micro-orbit, as taught in Qigong and Neigong. And that's a very important system. And then we have the triple system of, we could, I suppose, call them all Kundalini, but or at least the front and the back one we could call Kundalini. The middle one, it's different when you get there. It's a different energy. It is light. That's why it's the light body. And when you activate the light body, it's literally, if your eyes are closed, it's just your brain sort of like lights up. All you can see is light. All you can feel is a light bubble around you. And so it's this triple system, and it's the front one that's always forgotten. So when we're working on these things, we need to activate all three channels. And if we can stabilize it, that I've talked about in previous videos, stabilizing that micro-orbit system, this is when everything can become much stronger, much more stable. So we have the light body that actually incorporates Kundalini activation and Kundalini awakening. That's only a third of it. Okay, just a bit of an informative video. I hope you liked it. Comment on it, share this with people, subscribe to the channel. As you know, the more you do those things, if you like the information, the more it helps me, because the more this gets spread to more people, the more I know you're enjoying the information, the more I can produce. So simply by liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, it helps me help you guys. So thank you very much. I hope this has been informative, given you something to think about, hopefully given you something to go and research, to test, use your imagination. I will be bringing out more stuff on this. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in another video.